The strange encounter. Jake had always loved the wilderness, the quiet of the forests, the vastness of the open sky, and the feeling of being away from the noise of the world were what made his soul feel free. He had been hiking alone for days, now taking in the peace and solitude, but everything changed the night he stumbled upon her. It was late, and the sun had just set behind the tall mountains, leaving the world in a soft twilight glow. Jake had set up his small camp by the edge of a stream, the sound of water gently flowing in the background. He was tired from the long hike, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There was a strange energy in the air, something that felt different, but he couldn't quite place it. Just as he was about to settle into his tent for the night, he heard a faint sound, something like a low humming. It was distant, almost like the sound of an engine, but Jake knew there was no road for miles. Curiosity piqued, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. His breath caught in his throat when he saw it. A spaceship, small but unmistakable, was perched awkwardly on the ground near a cluster of trees, its metallic surface glowing faintly in the fading light. Jake froze, his mind racing. He had seen enough science fiction movies to know what this was, but seeing it in real life, it was almost too much to believe. As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he saw a figure stumbling out of the craft, her silhouette strange against the backdrop of the trees. She was tall, but not in the way a human would be. Her skin shimmered under the flashlight, a deep, vibrant green that glowed softly, almost as if it was alive. Long silver hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes were the strangest of all. They were a deep violet, glowing faintly as they met his gaze. Jake took a step back, his heart pounding. What in the world? He muttered to himself. The girl took a few hesitant steps toward him, her movements slow and uncertain, as if she wasn't sure whether she could trust him or perhaps if she should even be here. Her clothes were made of a material unlike anything Jake had ever seen, a shimmering fabric that seemed to shift colors depending on how the light hit it. She was beautiful, but in a way that was alien to him. Her features were delicate but sharp, and her posture radiated a kind of quiet power that both intrigued and unnerved him. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. For a moment, all he could do was stare. He had always dreamed of encountering an alien, but standing in front of one in real life was something he never could have prepared for. The girl stopped a few feet away from him, her violet eyes flicking from his face to the ground. There was something incredibly vulnerable about her, something that made Jake feel a rush of sympathy. She was clearly lost, disoriented, and frightened. "Are you okay?" Jake finally managed to ask, his voice shaky but sincere. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out at first. It seemed like she was struggling with language, or perhaps communication altogether. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling quickly before speaking in a soft, melodic voice. I don't understand," she said, her words slow and deliberate. Where am I?" Jake's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just the shock of her appearance, but the way she spoke. Her accent was unlike anything he had ever heard. She wasn't from Earth. That much was clear. "You're on Earth," he said, his mind racing as he tried to process everything. You came from space." The girl nodded slowly, her face a mixture of confusion and apprehension. I was sent here. I don't know what happened." Her voice trembled as she spoke, and Jake could see that she was trying to remain calm, but it was clear she was frightened. Jake's first instinct was to run. He had no idea what was going on, or if she was a threat, but there was something in her eyes that stopped him from turning away. She was alone, and whatever had brought her here was just as strange to her as it was to him. In that moment, he realized that he wasn't just witnessing an alien encounter. He was witnessing a being who was lost and terrified, someone who needed help. "Are you hurt?" Jake asked, stepping a little closer. The alien girl glanced down at her arms and legs, then shook her head. "No, but I'm not sure what happened to me. I was with others, but I was separated." Her eyes flashed with what Jake could only describe as panic. He nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. "Okay, all right, let's get you somewhere safe." Before he could say anything else, the girl's eyes darted toward the spaceship. The glow from the craft seemed to pulse with a strange energy, and for a moment, Jake could have sworn he saw a flicker of worry in her gaze. She took a step back, as though the ship was a reminder of something she was trying to escape. "I don't want to go back," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Jake's confusion deepened. "Back? What do you mean?" "You need to rest, and I can't go back," she said urgently, her voice rising with emotion. "Not to them, not to my people. I can't." Jake's mind raced. What was she talking about? Who were they? Why did she not want to go back? And as the alien girl stood there, her eyes filled with fear and uncertainty, Jake realized that he had just become a part of something far bigger than anything he had ever imagined, and he was about to learn that helping her could lead him into a world he never could have prepared for. But the most pressing question still hung in the air. What was going to happen next? The night was growing colder and Jake knew he had to make a decision. Would he help her? Or would he let fear dictate his actions? Something told him that whatever happened, the encounter had just begun. The alien's reluctant Jake stood there, frozen in the cold night air, his mind spinning as he watched the alien girl, her glowing green skin now more visible in the pale moonlight, fidget with her hands, clearly on edge. The situation was far more complicated than anything he'd ever encountered. His mind raced with questions, but he knew he needed to focus on one thing at a time, keeping this alien being safe. Despite his initial shock, the part of him that had spent years dreaming of alien encounters now found himself face to face with the reality of it. And the alien girl's hesitation told him more than words ever could. There was a deeper fear lurking behind her eyes, fear not just of being stranded on Earth, but something else, something much more personal. He took a cautious step toward her, trying to bridge the distance. His voice was softer this time, trying not to alarm her. I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to help. Her eyes flicked nervously to the spaceship, then to Jake, before her gaze fell to the ground. She seemed trapped in her own thoughts, caught between the desire to accept help and the fear of what that might mean. Jake could see her hesitating. Her body was tense, like a coiled spring, ready to snap away from him at any moment. I don't understand. Why are you helping me? She asked, her voice fragile, as if she herself was uncertain of the words she was speaking. I am not like you. I don't belong here. This world is too strange. Jake felt a pang of sympathy, though he was still overwhelmed by the strangeness of everything happening. She wasn't just lost in space, she was lost in this new world, trying to make sense of things she couldn't possibly understand. I'm not sure why either, Jake admitted, giving her a small smile, hoping to ease her tension. But I can't just leave you out here alone. We'll figure this out together. The alien girl, despite her reluctance, seemed to soften a little at his words. She glanced up, meeting his eyes for the first time, and Jake noticed a hint of something, a small spark of trust, but then it faded quickly, replaced by something darker. She took a step back, her fingers tightening around the hem of her shimmering alien outfit. I'm not used to this, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I have been trained to avoid contact with your kind, my people. They do not trust yours. The words left Jake confused. Avoid contact with humans? What did she mean by that? His mind raced, but the alien girl wasn't finished. Humans are unpredictable, she continued, her voice shaking slightly. Your emotions, your way of thinking, it's all chaotic. I was not supposed to get involved with you, but now. Her voice trailed off, as if the weight of her situation had become too much to bear. Jake watched her carefully, his heart heavy with understanding. He had read plenty about first contact scenarios in science fiction, but nothing could prepare him for the raw, emotional truth of this moment. She wasn't just a stranded alien, she was someone who had been trained to view humans as dangers. And the weight of that training was now making her hesitate. Her instincts were at war with her emotions. Jake took a deep breath and made another slow move toward her. I understand that this must be terrifying for you, he said gently. But we can figure this out. You don't have to be alone. The alien girl's body stiffened at his approach, her violet eyes wide with uncertainty. She suddenly turned away, her silver hair flowing as she paced a few steps. Her movements quick and erratic. She was clearly battling herself and alien, caught between fear, confusion, and an unexpected desire for connection. I don't know what's happening to me, she murmured, almost to herself. I have never been this close to a human before. Your presence, it's making me feel things I cannot explain. Jake's pulse quickened and a knot formed in his stomach. Was she talking about emotions? He had read about the concept of alien species having complex emotional responses to humans. But this was something else. It was real, tangible, and it was happening right in front of him. Her voice broke through his thoughts. I am confused. I was not meant to feel this way, but every time you get closer, I feel something pulling me toward you. She paused and looked over her shoulder at him, her eyes full of turmoil. Why are you doing this? Why are you helping me? Jake, sensing her vulnerability, reached out slowly, his hand extended in an offering of peace. He needed to show her that she could trust him, that his actions were genuine. I don't know what's going on either, but I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help, even if that's all I can do right now. For a long moment, the alien girl remained silent, her eyes locked on his hand. There was a clear internal struggle playing out in her mind. Her body wanted to pull away, but her heart seemed to want to stay. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she hesitantly took a step forward, her hand just barely brushing his. I don't know if I can trust you, she whispered, the words heavy with uncertainty. But right now, I don't know if I have any other choice. Jake's heart swelled with a mix of relief and fear. This was the moment he had been waiting for, a chance to break through the barriers that had kept her so distant, but he also realized that helping her was going to be far more difficult than he ever could have imagined. There was so much more to her story and so much about her that he didn't understand. As she stood there, still hesitant but closer than ever before, Jake couldn't help but wonder what would come next. Could he truly help her? Or was there more to her fear? More to the strange reaction she was having to him than he could ever comprehend? The night felt colder now. But Jake knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about survival in the wilderness. This was the beginning of something far greater. And he wasn't about to let it slip away. As the alien girl took a tentative step toward him, Jake realized that whatever happened next, he was in it for the long haul. The moment of truth, silence between them grew heavy, like a thick fog that neither of them could shake off. Jake stood there, his heart racing as he tried to process everything. The alien girl, who had been so distant and afraid just moments before, now stood a little closer. Her violet eyes filled with a mix of confusion, uncertainty, and surprisingly trust. She hadn't fully accepted his help yet, but there was something different about her now. She wasn't pulling away, she wasn't running. It felt like an invisible thread had connected them, and no matter how much she tried to fight it, she was drawn to him, and Jake, he was just as drawn to her. The strange, unspoken connection between them was undeniable. Finally, the alien girl spoke, her voice barely above a whisper, but there was a new intensity to it. I don't understand what's happening to me. I've never felt anything like this before. Jake took a step closer, his breath shallow. I don't know what you're feeling either, but I'm not going to hurt you. I can't. She looked at him, her eyes searching his face, trying to gauge his sincerity. Then, to Jake's surprise, she took another step closer, her body language softening. For the first time since they'd met, she wasn't looking at him with fear or suspicion. She was looking at him with something entirely different, something that almost felt like hope. I'm scared, she said quietly, almost as if the words were a confession she'd never dared to utter before. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening to me. My people, your people? Jake interrupted gently, trying to keep the conversation grounded. What do you mean? Who are they? The alien girl's gaze darkened, and for a brief moment she seemed to lose herself in thought. They taught me to suppress everything, to stay away from humans, to keep my instincts under control. But now, being close to you, I can't help but feel something. Something I was never supposed to feel. Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Something? What was she talking about? Was it fear, desire? He didn't know, but he could tell. Whatever it was powerful. It wasn't just a biological reaction. It was something far more complicated. Something tied to who she was and who she had been trained to be. I don't know how to control it, she said, her voice shaking now. As if admitting it aloud made it all the more real. When I'm near you, it's like a force pulling me and making me want to stay. Jake's mind was reeling, trying to piece everything together. Her reaction, her hesitation, it was all part of something far bigger than he could have imagined. Her people had trained her to avoid human contact, to suppress her feelings, but here she was, standing in front of him, clearly struggling to make sense of the flood of emotions she was feeling. Maybe you don't have to control it, Jake said carefully, his voice filled with a quiet empathy. Maybe you just need to understand it. You're not like the others, you're different. And you don't have to be afraid of what you're feeling. The alien girl took a deep breath, her eyes fluttering closed for a brief moment, as though she were trying to find some semblance of peace amidst the chaos in her mind. You don't understand, she whispered. I've never felt this kind of connection before, and it scares me. I don't know what it means for me, for you, for us. Jake stepped closer, his hand almost reaching out to her but stopping short. I don't understand it either, but I know that you don't have to go through this alone. I want to help. Whatever you're going through, I'll be here. Her eyes met his again. And for the first time, Jake saw something in her, something raw, something real. She wasn't just a lost alien on Earth, she was a person, struggling with feelings she didn't know how to process, and for a brief, fleeting moment, it felt like they weren't from two completely different worlds. They were just two people, trying to make sense of a situation that had brought them together in the most unexpected way. But just as Jake felt himself inching closer to the truth of what was happening between them, the alien girl's body stiffened. Again, her hand moving to her chest as if to steady herself. I'm not sure I can let go of everything I've been taught, she said, her voice strained. I've spent my entire life suppressing my instincts. I don't know if I can let them take over now. Jake felt a surge of urgency, wanting to break through her fears, wanting to show her that she didn't have to be afraid of what she was feeling, but there was something deeper, something more powerful that she was struggling against. Her species had trained her to control her every impulse, and now, faced with something entirely new, it was overwhelming her. Maybe you don't have to let them take over, Jake said softly, his hand reaching out toward her. Maybe you just need to embrace them. You don't have to be afraid of who you are, not anymore. The alien girl's eyes filled with something that looked almost like relief. But it quickly faded as the weight of her training came crashing down on her again. She stepped back slightly, her body trembling as if battling an unseen force. I don't know if I can, she whispered, but I'm scared that if I don't, I might lose myself. Jake's heart ached for her. He wanted to tell her that everything would be okay, that they could figure it out together. But the truth was, he didn't know if they could. The tension between them was thick. And it wasn't just about her fears, it was about everything that was happening to her. Everything she had been taught to suppress, and just as Jake was about to speak, a faint noise came from the spaceship in the distance, a low hum like a warning. The alien girl's eyes widened in alarm. They're coming, she said, her voice trembling. I have to go. Jake froze. Who was coming? What did she mean? He opened his mouth to ask. But before he could say anything, she turned and began to walk toward the craft. Her footsteps hurried, almost frantic, as she reached the ship. She stopped and turned back to him, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and regret. I don't know what's going to happen, but thank you, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Thank you for seeing me for who I am. And with that, she stepped inside the ship, disappearing into the night sky, leaving Jake standing alone in the wilderness with more questions than answers. The unexpected change. Jake stood there, staring up at the now empty sky. The ship had disappeared into the night, vanishing like a dream, leaving behind only the faint hum of its engines. Echoing in the distance, his mind was a whirlpool of confusion and disbelief. He had just met an alien girl, shared something with her that was beyond anything he could explain, and now she was gone, lost in the stars. But something about the way she looked at him, something about the way she hesitated, lingered in his mind. There was more to this story, more to their connection than he could ever have imagined. He knew it wasn't just about helping her get through the night anymore. It was about something much bigger, something that neither of them could ignore. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden movement behind him. Jake turned, his heart racing, expecting to see something else, but there was no alien ship. No otherworldly presence, just the quiet wilderness, as calm and still as it had been before. Still, the hair on the back of his neck stood up. There was a strange, electric tension in the air, something that felt almost alive, like an invisible thread connecting him to the alien girl. And then, before he knew it, he heard it, a soft voice, almost like a whisper, calling his name. Jake. It was her. The alien girl's voice echoed through the trees, though she wasn't anywhere in sight. He spun around, his pulse quickening. She had said she was leaving, but now, it felt like she was still here. As if the distance between them had closed, even though the ship was long gone. Jake. The voice again, clearer this time, as though she was right behind him. He turned. Slowly, his breath caught in his throat, and there she was, standing a few feet away. Her silver hair glimmering like stardust under the moonlight. Her eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. She wasn't supposed to be here. She had gone back to her people, but now she was standing before him, just as confused as he was, her body trembling. You came back. Jake's voice was hoarse, disbelief running through every word. But why? I thought you left. The alien girl shook her head, her eyes filled with something deeper than fear now, something that felt like a realization. She stepped forward cautiously, her movements almost hesitant. The distance between them was still too great, but she was moving toward him nonetheless. I didn't leave, Jake, she said, her voice quiet but urgent. I couldn't. Jake's heart pounded. But you said you had to go, that they were coming for you. What changed? She looked down at the ground, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her shimmering outfit. She was clearly fighting some inner turmoil. I thought I could go back. I thought I could follow the rules they set for me, but I can't, not anymore. She looked up at him, her violet eyes locked on his with an intensity that made his breath hitch. Being with you, feeling what I felt, it's something I've never experienced. Something that's been suppressed for my entire life. I didn't know what was happening at first, but now, I understand. Jake was speechless. Her words sent a ripple of understanding through him, but he didn't fully grasp what she was trying to say. He had offered her warmth, a simple human act, and it had changed everything for her. But how? Why? I don't know how to explain it, she continued, stepping closer to him, her voice full of emotion. I've never been able to experience emotions like this, not like you do. My people, they believe in logic, in control. But when I was near you, something inside me awakened. I don't know how to stop it, and I don't know if I want to. Jake felt a rush of emotion. His first instinct was to reach out to her, to tell her it was going to be okay. That, whatever she was going through, they would figure it out together. But as he stepped closer, something in the air changed again. The electric charge from before was back, and it was stronger now. Pulsing between them with every breath, her body seemed to react. Her posture shifting as if some deep, hidden part of her was awakening. The warmth between them grew and Jake could feel it, as though it was becoming part of him too. She was radiating something, a force he couldn't explain but felt deeply within him. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional, it was connection. It was something more. The alien girl's eyes widened slightly as she seemed to notice the change in him too. She looked at him, a new fear entering her expression. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said urgently. "I didn't mean to make you feel this way. I don't know what this is," but before she could finish her sentence, Jake stepped closer, his hand reaching out to touch her arm. The moment his skin made contact with hers, the reaction was immediate. The energy between them surged as though a dam had broken, flooding them both with an overwhelming wave of warmth and emotion. Jake could feel his heart race, his breath quickening as the pull between them grew stronger, deeper. She gasped, her body stiffening for a moment before she relaxed into the connection. Her eyes closed, and for a brief second, Jake wondered if he was losing control. But then, just as quickly as it had started, the overwhelming energy receded. The air around them felt different now, calmer, as if the invisible force had settled into something new. The alien girl opened her eyes, her expression softening. I don't know what just happened," she whispered, "but I don't want to fight it anymore." Jake's pulse was still racing, but now, instead of fear, he felt something else, something powerful, yet calming. He wasn't sure where this connection was going, but in that moment, he knew that whatever it was undeniable. It was real. "You don't have to fight it," he said, his voice low and steady. "You don't have to fight us." And just like that, something shifted between them. The confusion, the fear, and the distance. Everything seemed to fade into the background as they stood there, facing the unknown together. No more running, no more hiding. Whatever was happening now, whatever had just changed, Jake knew one thing for certain: it was only the beginning of something bigger than either of them could have ever imagined. The alien's confession night had grown deeper, and the once clear sky was now shrouded in the dense blanket of stars. The air around them still hummed with the energy that had surged between Jake and the alien girl. But now, with the intensity of their connection hanging in the air, there was a quiet stillness, as though the world itself was waiting for what would happen next. Jake stood in front of her, his breath coming slowly, trying to steady his pulse. She hadn't moved since their brief connection, but her eyes were full of uncertainty, searching his face as if trying to read his thoughts. There was a vulnerability in her gaze, something he hadn't seen before. It was as if the walls she had carefully built around herself were crumbling, leaving her exposed, raw, and unsure of what to do next. "I've never felt this way," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Not with anyone. I didn't expect this, Jake. I didn't know how to handle it." Jake didn't say anything immediately, unsure of how to respond. This wasn't like anything he had ever imagined. He had been expecting a simple alien encounter, an extraordinary one, certainly, but not this strange mix of emotions, of confusion, and even intimacy. He had offered her warmth, and somehow that warmth had ignited something much deeper. It felt like they had crossed a line neither of them fully understood. "Don't fight it," Jake finally said, his voice calm but firm. "Whatever it is, I think we can figure this out together." Her eyes flickered with something like doubt. She took a step back, her hands wrapping tightly around her arms, as if to hold herself together. "But you don't understand, Jake," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I can't just ignore everything I've been taught. We don't let ourselves feel like this. It's not how we were raised. Emotions, connections, they're weaknesses. My people believe in control. We suppress everything." The weight of her words sank into the space between them. Jake felt an unfamiliar heaviness. But it wasn't just the gravity of her words, it was the realization that her entire existence, everything she had been trained to believe, was now at odds with the bond they had shared. She was caught between her instincts and her upbringing, between what she had been told to suppress and what was growing inside her. Now that she was with him, her shoulders slumped slightly as she continued, her voice quieter now. "I was taught to fear humans, to never let myself get too close, to never trust. I was trained to see you as something to avoid, to control. You're unpredictable. You can't be trusted." Jake felt a pang in his chest at her words. The idea that she had been taught to fear him, to see him as a threat, was both heartbreaking and eye-opening. He had offered kindness, warmth, and yet she was terrified. Not of him as an individual, but of the overwhelming flood of emotions she had never been allowed to feel. He took a step toward her, carefully, slowly, not wanting to push her away. "I'm not a threat," he said gently. "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to understand, and I want to help." The alien girl's eyes met his, and for the first time, Jake saw a flicker of something like acceptance, hesitant, unsure, but still there. She took a deep breath, and for the first time since they had met, Jake saw a crack in her walls. The cold exterior, the hardened alien persona, it all seemed to melt away in that instant. It wasn't gone completely, but she wasn't as afraid anymore. "You want to help me?" she whispered. Her voice shaky, "But you don't understand. What I am, what I've been taught. I've been taught to deny this." She gestured between them. "Everything we're feeling right now. I can't control it, Jake, and that scares me." Jake's heart ached as he listened to her words. She wasn't just struggling with her fear of him, she was struggling with herself. The fear of what she might become, what she might feel, was eating away at her. She wasn't just running from him, she was running from the truth of who she was becoming in his presence. "I don't need you to control it," Jake said softly, reaching out slowly, his voice filled with reassurance. "I don't need you to be something you're not, I just need you to trust me. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to be you, whatever that is." For a long moment, the alien girl didn't respond. She stood still, her gaze fixed on the ground, her hands trembling at her sides. Jake didn't push her, he just waited. He could feel the weight of her internal battle. The war between who she had been taught to be and who she was in this moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I can do that, but I want to try." Jake smiled, a sense of relief flooding through him. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take it one step at a time. We'll figure it out together." The alien girl finally looked up at him, her violet eyes still full of uncertainty. But there was something new in them, something like hope. The walls she had built so carefully around herself were still there, but they were starting to crumble piece by piece with every word, every gesture of kindness. And Jake knew that whatever came next, whatever they had to face together, they would do it as partners. They were no longer two strangers from different worlds, they were two souls, connected by something more powerful than fear, than training, than biology. They were connected by the simple truth that they weren't alone anymore. "I don't know what happens next," the alien girl said softly, her voice now steady, though still uncertain. "But I'll try, for you, for us." Jake nodded, his heart filled with something he couldn't quite name. "That's all I'm asking for." As they stood there, the night stretching out around them, Jake realized that what had started as a strange encounter had now become something far more profound. Their journey together was only just beginning, and though they both faced the unknown, they were no longer afraid. Together, they would face whatever came next, whether it was her past, her people, or whatever emotions and instincts lay ahead. They would face it as one, and in that moment, Jake knew that this unexpected, strange encounter had changed both their lives forever. The alien's choicest days after the alien girl's confession were quiet, but the weight of her words hung between them like an unspoken promise. Jake had never imagined that helping her, offering a simple sleeping bag for warmth, would lead to this, the unraveling of emotions neither of them had anticipated. Each day, they ventured deeper into the wilderness, learning more about one another. The more they shared, the more Jake realized how complex this alien girl was. She wasn't just a stranger from the stars. She was a living, breathing creature torn between two worlds, her own and this one. But the more they spent together, the more Jake noticed the tension growing in her. She would pull away at times, lost in thought, her violet eyes flicking between him and the distant stars, as if something out there was calling to her, something that wasn't him. One evening, as they sat around a small campfire, the glow of the flames dancing in her eyes, Jake couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. It was as if there was a wall between them now, something she wasn't ready to confront. She had made progress in opening up to him, but there was something she hadn't shared yet. Something that weighed heavily on her mind. "I can't keep doing this," the alien girl said suddenly, her voice low and filled with an ache that Jake hadn't heard before. She looked away, as if not wanting him to see the vulnerability in her expression. Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? What's wrong?" She shook her head, her long silver hair falling around her face like a curtain. "I can't keep pretending that everything's fine. I'm not like you, Jake. I never will be. I'm not meant to be here." Her voice faltered as if she was fighting to keep herself together. "I was never supposed to feel this connection. It's not in the plan. It's not what I was trained for." Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concern. "But you want to be here, don't you? You're not just pretending, are you?" The alien girl met his gaze, her violet eyes filled with a storm of conflicting emotions. "I don't know anymore. I've been taught to control everything, every instinct, every feeling, every connection. But you've awakened something in me that I can't control. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing." Jake reached out, gently touching her arm, his touch grounding her in the moment. "I don't think it's either. It's just you." She looked at him, her eyes softening slightly, but there was still a hesitation in her expression. "I don't know what it means, Jake. All my life, I've been told to suppress everything. My emotions, my desires, everything. We're taught to be rational, to think logically, to follow orders without question." But now, she took a deep breath, her body trembling with the weight of her words. "Now, I don't know what's real anymore." Jake's heart ached for her. He could see the internal battle she was fighting, the desire to be with him, to be something other than what she had been trained to be, but also the overwhelming fear of the unknown. Fear of what she might become if she let go of everything she had known. "I don't want to make you choose," Jake said softly, his voice filled with tenderness. "But you don't have to follow what they've taught you if it doesn't make sense to you. You can choose your own path." The alien girl's eyes welled with unshed tears. "But that's just it, Jake. I don't know what that path is. I don't know if I can be who I want to be. I don't know if I can be with you the way I want to." Her words hit Jake like a blow to the chest. He had never imagined that their connection, so powerful and undeniable, could cause so much pain. He had thought that helping her, offering her his warmth and kindness, would be enough to bridge the gap between them. But now he saw that it wasn't just about being close to each other, it was about breaking free from the chains of her past, from everything she had been taught to suppress. "I don't need you to be someone you're not," Jake said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I just need you to be you, whatever that means. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I want to find it with you. Not because you're some alien, not because of what you can do, but because you're you, and I believe in you." For a long moment, the alien girl said nothing. She just looked at him, her expression torn between fear and something else, something like hope. Then she finally spoke, her voice shaky but clear. "I've spent my entire life thinking I had to follow the rules," she said, her hands trembling. "But now, standing here with you, I feel like I'm breaking them, and I'm scared, Jake. I'm scared that if I choose to stay, if I choose to feel, I might lose myself." Jake took her hand gently in his. "You won't lose yourself," he said softly. "You'll just find the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. And I'll be here to help you find it." The alien girl's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but for the first time, she allowed herself to smile. It was small, hesitant, but it was real. "You really think so?" Jake nodded. "I know so." She closed her eyes, a deep breath filling her lungs as if she were finally ready to release the weight of her fears. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'll try. I'll try to let go of everything they taught me. I'll try to be me." Jake felt a surge of relief wash over him. The weight of her decision hung in the air between them, but for the first time, it felt like a decision she was making for herself, not for her people, not for the rules she had lived by, but for her. And in that moment, Jake realized something profound. Their connection wasn't just about crossing a line between species, it was about breaking free from the invisible walls that kept them apart. And now, as she stood beside him, ready to make her choice, he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, no longer bound by fear or the past, but by the promise of something new, something neither of them could have imagined. As the stars shone brightly above them, Jake and the alien girl stood at the edge of a new beginning, a shared journey that would take them far beyond what either had known before. The unexpected bond. The weeks following the alien girl's decision were full of change, both for her and for Jake. As the days passed, they found themselves navigating this strange new territory between them, one that had never been charted. The tension between who she was meant to be and who she was allowing herself to become was still there, but now it was tempered with something else: trust. Jake watched her every day, amazed by how she seemed to evolve before his eyes. Her once rigid, alien mannerisms softened with time. Her body, once hesitant and unsure, became more fluid, more open, and Jake, he found himself slowly unraveling as well. The boundaries between them were breaking down, replaced by something deeper, something far more powerful than either of them had expected. One evening, as they sat around the fire once more, the alien girl turned to Jake with a seriousness that made his heart race. Her eyes, usually filled with uncertainty, now had an intensity to them, a focused clarity that Jake hadn't seen before. She wasn't the lost, confused alien girl he had first met. She was something more. She was herself. And in that moment, he knew the change had been more than just physical. It was in the way she held herself, the way she spoke, the way she looked at him. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice soft but firm, "about everything, about what you said, about choosing my own path." Jake turned his attention fully to her, his gaze fixed on her with growing curiosity. "What about it? I think I understand now," she said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "I've spent so long hiding from my true feelings, from what I really want. I've been afraid to accept that part of myself, the part that isn't controlled, that isn't always rational, the part that feels." Jake's heart clenched as she spoke. He had seen her struggle, had felt the weight of her fear, her confusion. And now, to see her stand in front of him so sure of herself, was more than just a breakthrough. It was a revelation. "You don't have to be afraid of that part of you," Jake said, his voice thick with emotion. "That part of you is just as important as the rest, and I'll be here for it, for you." She looked at him, her eyes softening. There was no hesitation now, no second guessing. She had made her choice. And she was embracing it fully. "I'm not sure what this means for us," she said, her gaze meeting his with a sincerity that made Jake's breath catch. "But I want to find out. I want to find out what this connection between us really is. I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to hide from what I feel." Jake smiled, the weight in his chest lifting. "I don't have all the answers either," he said, reaching out to gently hold her hand. "But I'm ready to figure it out with you, every step of the way." As they sat there, their fingers intertwined, something shifted between them. It wasn't just about being from different worlds anymore. It wasn't just about her learning to trust him or him trying to understand her. It was about the bond they had forged, an unspoken connection, a thread that tied them together in ways neither of them fully understood, but both of them were willing to explore. But even as they shared this moment, there was still a sense of uncertainty in the air. The alien girl had made her choice, but the road ahead was still unknown. Jake knew the journey they had started was only the beginning. There were still dangers lurking in the corners of their shared path, her past, the alien forces that had trained her, and the unknown consequences of their connection. The alien girl broke the silence, her voice barely a whisper. "There's still one thing I don't understand, Jake." "What's that?" he asked, turning toward her, his brow furrowing in curiosity. "I still don't know why I'm here," she said, her voice full of vulnerability. "I came to Earth for a reason. But I don't know what that reason is. All I know is that everything that's happened, everything that's changed, it started the moment I met you." Jake looked at her, his heart swelling with an emotion he couldn't quite put into words. "Maybe that's the reason," he said, his voice low but steady. "Maybe you were meant to meet me. And maybe I was meant to meet you." She smiled, a small, genuine smile that was free of fear or doubt. "Maybe," she said softly, leaning closer to him, "maybe we're both exactly where we're supposed to be." The stars above them twinkled brightly like distant beacons, guiding them forward. As Jake and the alien girl sat together in the silence of the night, there was a quiet understanding between them. They were no longer two strangers from different worlds. They were two souls, bound by an unspoken promise, one of trust, one of discovery, and one of love in all its complicated, beautiful forms. And even as they faced an uncertain future, one thing was clear: they would face it together. The unexpected bond they had formed wasn't just about alien biology or the barriers between their species. It was about two beings, each struggling to find their place in the universe, coming together to create something new. No matter what came next, they knew they would walk side by side, ready to explore the unknown, knowing that together they were stronger than they had ever been apart. The journey wasn't over, it had just begun.